Hey, welcome to Your Best Podcast. I'm your best life coach, Teemaree, and today, we're going to get into it. This is all about hormone health. So if you know that it can be crazy navigating this landscape. So I'm so excited for our guest today who's going to break it down, lead us through, and just guide us all on what we can do around this subject. It's Chelsea McLeod. And check this out. I love this. She's a corporate dropout turned health coach for high performers. Okay. She healed herself, quit her job, and now she helps high achievers lose weight and feel incredible without cardio. Okay, or restriction by balancing hormones and fixing gut issues. So yes, this is going to be an amazing situation. Just settle in, relax, whatever you need. We're in here. Welcome, Chelsea. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. Now, to kick things off, please give us your website, your deets, where people can connect with you. We'll broach it again, but let us know right off the top.
You guys can find me at Instagram. So it's Healthy with Chels, and that's where you can find all my freebies. I've got a really special freebie that you will really enjoy. It's how to lose weight with using hormone balancing strategies, but without giving up chocolate.
Okay, I'll be there. I wanted to dive right in with you because honestly, if I may be so bold and so clear, I'm entering a season in my life where hormones are starting to do things, and it's a new day for me. And it's been personally overwhelming and challenging and interesting and eye-opening and confusing navigating this landscape. There are a lot of voices and also absurdly not enough voices speaking on this subject. So as soon as I came upon you and what you do and your information, I was so excited for all of us to learn from you. Namely, let's just start off with some foundational stuff. You say you healed yourself. Please tell us a little bit about what that was and what did you have and what did you heal yourself from?
So I was in corporate for 12 years, burning the candle at both ends. And this is off the back of a really debilitating family emergency that happened when I was in college as well, where my brother had a brain injury from a football game and he survived the accident, but with severe disabilities. And during that time, I was commuting to and from college. This was on top of playing sports. And so that is when my body entered what I called survival mode. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of the beginning of my hormone imbalance journey. And that's when I stopped sleeping. That's when I started getting the cravings. That's when I started getting acne for the first time in my life. And, I was 18 years old. It was a little late for that to happen. My period disappeared and then came back really, really painful and heavy. I'd never had cramps before. So that's when it started for me. And then, being in the constant chaos of a corporate job, it just kind of got worse over time. So by the time I was in my late 20s, I had all these symptoms that I thought were normal, but I realized that they're not. And I would go on trips with friends and they would easily fall asleep after, 20 minutes in bed. And I would lay there awake till 2 or 3 a.m. And I thought like, that's just me. Like, I'm just the kind of person who doesn't sleep. And as I started learning more about this, it took me until I was in the Melbourne lockdown. So I live in Australia. I'm American, but I was in the most strict lockdown during the COVID period. And I was physically forced to slow down. I couldn't do my 2-a-day workouts. I wasn't, commuting 2 hours a day. I wasn't in constant survival mode, and my body just crashed. Now, that was the first time where I was really forced to slow down and actually start to look for answers of, I can't keep going. That was kind of like my bathroom floor moment, my I'm done moment, where I was like, I can't keep doing this. So that's when I started to seek, I started seeing doctors, I started listening to podcasts, and I just wasn't getting the answers. They were like, change your birth control, go on this medication. And that wasn't an acceptable answer to me. So I started looking into other treatment modalities. And it actually took me working with a holistic skin practitioner to really start to heal my hormones because, she's almost like a hormone healer disguised as a skin coach. So like she helped me heal my skin, but in the process, my hormones started to balance and I started to sleep through the night and I wasn't irritable all the time. And, I had a number of diagnosed quote unquote conditions, right? So I had PCOS. I had, high cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and we can talk all about these things. But what I want to say is there's so many women out there who have a hormone imbalance, but don't realize it. And they think it's just part of being a woman or part of getting older or part of insert ... whatever here. But it's actually not the case. And when you learn to take care of yourself and learn these foundational strategies, which are often not complicated, they're just, you need the playbook, things can change so quickly for you. And when we look at your situation, for example, we can talk a little bit about what you're experiencing. But for most women, like the transition to menopause shouldn't be so rocky. Like it should be a smooth process. So if you're setting yourself up well for menopause, it's actually you're not going to have a lot of those crazy symptoms. So I'm really passionate about helping women who are in big roles, who are overperforming, who are doing the most, look and feel the way they should by balancing hormones, because it's truly a skill that I think every woman needs to know.
Absolutely. It really is, because you've touched on a few important points as to why. So I love that, for me in my trajectory, like I'm not in menopause or near, but I'm experiencing it as I'm looking. I'm like, am I in perimenopause? Am I starting this process? What is this? But I have to say that there have been other periods in my life where I'm not near puberty and I'm not near menopause and things are happening. And you're absolutely right. We get told that it's just, part of being a woman. It's just something you go through. I've been told, early on, kind of late 20s, early 30s of like, it's just something that happens as you get older. I'm like, older? What is older? I just would get these kind of brush off statements. And I'm like, I know there's something going on. What is it? It could be better. And so I love that you mentioned in your journey how, you are definitely, you're 18. You're 18 going into this. So again, you're far from puberty. You're nowhere near menopause, but something's going on. And another thing that you touched on that I think is really key is finding those specialists and how sometimes that is ambiguous. In my particular journey, I do offer, as the Best Life Coach, I offer health coaching as one of my coaching programs. But that only launched off when I too needed to find help for something with my own health that launched this whole cavalcade of diving into the holistic way. Mine happened to be disguised as a chiropractor that was like a guru medicine person, but not with no medicine, with all natural ways. I love that you touched on that and the importance of accessing the right professionals, in case in point, like what you are now. So as you started to discover and heal yourself, right, from what I imagine was a high stress, was it high stress? And then also the stress was causing a hormone imbalance. You said there were these other kind of symptoms you were issues you were told that you had. So for the logical person that says, well, what would you have said you had that you healed? What was the condition that then went away as a result of your efforts with your wellness journey and taking care of yourself naturally?
Well, there's a couple, and they often all go hand in hand, right? And obviously, I do have to say I'm not a medical practitioner, so I'm not, curing any medical diseases. But for me, the different kind of things that I reversed were things like adrenal fatigue, which is when you're producing cortisol at the wrong time. So, on a good day, on someone who's balanced and healthy and doesn't have a hormone imbalance, they start their day with higher cortisol. Cortisol is not a bad thing. It's just, it starts high in the day it's your get up and go. It's what makes you kind of get moving in the morning. And then in the afternoon, it starts to drop off. And at night, it's supposed to be really low. For me, this curve was completely flipped on its head where I wasn't producing cortisol in the morning. So I needed that cup of coffee. It was really tough for me to get started. I was craving sugar and it started to pick up at night. So by the time I was exhausted all day, but by the time I had hit the pillow at 9 p.m., my eyes were just bolting open. And this is despite, being in a boardroom for 12 hours and teaching 2 spin classes and walking 10K and like all this crazy stuff. So it never occurred to me that could be an issue. So that's one thing that I reverse, but also PCOS, which is generally when females are producing too many androgens. One of which is a male sex hormone called testosterone, um, but also things like a gut imbalance. So had an overgrowth of bacteria and yeast in my gut, candida, was able to reverse that, and those are the three that I would say. They're also very common in my practice. I would say a lot of women come to me with those issues, among many, many others. But the number one we look at is cortisol. So that's the stress hormone that really women are so sensitive to changes in cortisol and chronic stress. And that is kind of like when we look at the root cause of a lot of these hormone imbalances, a lot of time it just goes back to high cortisol.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. That is fascinating. Now, would you say that what you personally experienced, it was due to, so did hormone imbalances cause your experience, or were hormone imbalances like a ripple effect of what you were experiencing? Because I know sometimes that'll happen. So it's like, oh, I live a stressful lifestyle, but now that stress caused this. Or sometimes, like in the case with other holistic practitioners and even things that I've discovered with some of my clients, and if you have, like, let's say parasites or candida, this is causing now all these things that are an effect of. So which was your experience? What was causing what in your experience? And knowing full well, listeners, watchers, we are not doctors. We are not telling you we are doctors. We are not telling you we're going to cure anything you have. We're not telling you to come to us instead of doctors. We are simply sharing our experience, and we are giving you the opportunity to chime into the conversation and connect with people that have been there, done that, and gotten some results with some healthy ways. Fair?
100%. And I think your question is so interesting because I've thought so much about this as a practitioner. And as I launched my practice a year ago, and I've worked with 85 kind of busy, driven women, and some men in there as well, C-suite executives, people in big roles, big stress, a lot of travel. I'm of the opinion that there's always a reason for the hormone imbalance. The hormone imbalance doesn't just happen. It is for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it is like literally stress or emotional. Like someone has not learned the emotional coping strategies. And so therefore their cortisol is high because they don't know how to emotionally regulate. Number two is just general unhealthy lifestyle practices. So that could be diet. That's why the number one thing that I start with any client is, and this is because I want to start with the biggest rocks. Yes. And not the pebbles. Like there's so many little pebbles. You can do the red light therapy. You can do all these little things. But if you are not nailing your nutrition, that is the number one thing that I start with. And so just getting people to heal their blood sugar, getting them to eat well-rounded meals. And this is all in I put so much free information out there. This is all in the free guide that I have of like how to do these things, how to build a meal that actually works, like what foods you should be. I call them a high vibe food list with my clients of ones they should be moving towards instead of avoiding things like processed food that are more of like a low vibe food, right? Like there's no such thing as good and bad. There's just kind of neutrality and serve and limit. And once you understand the serve and limit of different foods, it's so much easier to stay in alignment. So it could be nutrition. It could be, and it's interesting, the gut piece, what I typically see is hormones and gut kind of go in a nasty loop, and one can cause the other and the other can cause the other. So for example, someone who has high stress is going to inherently shut down their optimal gut function, which allows things like parasites, candida, and bacteria to overgrow. But sometimes someone could maybe take some antibiotics, which wipes out their gut. And so they don't have the typical like good bacteria to fight back against the bad bacteria. So if you take in something like a parasite, something where your body could normally prevent it with having high levels of stomach acid, which go down when you're super stressed or when you're not eating well, then you have a gut issue that's also causing a hormone imbalance. So it can kind of go in this loop, and then someone has, this loop of crazy high cortisol because they have a pathogen and the pathogen's there. And so it causes high cortisol. So it just goes round and round until you address the entire body, which is why I do so much comprehensive lab testing, functional medicine lab testing with clients to figure out why they have the hormone imbalance in the first place.
Yes, that's wonderful. That is wonderful, wonderful, and so comprehensive. And that's something that also led to me taking this own personal journey where I did it for myself and then would do it for my clients as well. Because I get so frustrated. you've lived in Australia now for 5 years. So, you can speak to me about what it is like there in terms of internationally. But, man, in America, gosh, I just feel like when it comes to the medical industry and the way that things are looked at, things are so separated when we are a holistic being. Everything works with everything else. Everything gets affected. We are one unit. So it's such a frustration to, even that is like, okay, well, I'm having a hormone imbalance. Okay, well, you need to go to 5 different doctors to try to maybe. And it just becomes its own level of stress and foundation of stress and frustration. So I'm really, really happy that you are helping people look at their whole health system and be able to naturally take the steps that we all can take to reverse, eliminate, get better, to find solutions that work for them. For lack of better words. Now, again, I know that we can never. Beings are very varied and no one is the same. And so I don't want it's tough when we're speaking about health and healing and things of that nature, because of course we're not saying that everyone's the same or making promises. But I know I, as a coach, start to see themes, right? Or we start to see trends. So for that listener that may be like, hey, do I even have a hormone imbalance? Like, things are going on. What are some trends you've seen in your clients or in your own life that can help a person at least begin, whether they're going to communicate with a medical doctor or whether they're going to come to a coach like you to say, what are some things, symptoms or signs that someone may be having a hormone imbalance?
The most common are trouble with sleeping. If you're not able to fall asleep at 10, 11 p.m., maybe even earlier, and sleep for a solid 7 to 8 hours uninterrupted, something's going on. And another one is belly fat. So especially, it could be general weight gain, which is a byproduct of inflammation or any number of hormone issues, but especially belly fat. So if you kind of have that inner tube belly, that's another kind of surefire sign. Waking up at 2 or 3 a.m., skin issues, just any issues with energy. So if you're waking up and you're very tired, that's a sign. Irregular periods. So if you're not having a cycle from 26 to 32 days on a pretty regular basis, that's another one, obviously with the exception of someone who's going through menopause, where you're going to see more time lapse between the cycles. Sugar cravings, like demonic sugar cravings, if you know what I mean. If you know, you know. Headaches is another one. I see a lot of women with hormone imbalance who get a lot of migraines. And then also if you have a diagnosed medical condition like PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, and then also just feeling anxious. Like I see a lot of women who, label themselves as, I just have anxiety. And then they bounce their hormones and they're like, oh, I don't have anxiety. It's just so funny. Like we're so quick to thwack a label on something without actually just rebalancing our body and being like, oh, that's not really me anymore.
Yes. I love that you stated that, because that's something that I definitely try to convey to folks, is that our bodies are incredibly intelligent and our bodies are communicating with us. So that's another thing I feel that, just due to commercials and marketing for different, whether they be prescription or over the counter, of course, none of us like to feel bad. None of us want to feel bad. But if something is feeling bad, it's a conversation that our bodies are having with us. It's saying, hey, look over here. Pay attention to me. Alert, alert. And I think we just often don't either, recognize or honor our bodies enough. And we certainly, unless we take that time and learn, we don't understand the conversation our body is having with us. We're just like, something hurts, get it away. Like, stop the hurting. But it's like the hurting is alerting. Tweetable. The hurting is alerting. So I love that you said that, because it's very, very key. So as people are going through this, right? They can't sleep. They have these issues going on, and they come to you. They say, Chelsea, I need you, girl. Help me out. I am in trouble. I'm having all these things, and let's work through this. What is the trend, again, where trend-wise, how long does something like this take? to heal, to recover from, to say, okay, now things are out of balance and now they're in balance again?
Depends on the person, obviously. And there's a couple factors that kind of indicate how long this will take. Number one is, how long has it been going on and how bad is it? Like, number two is, how compliant are you and how willing are you to have a look at some of the deeper things, some of the emotional things? How often are you going to take your supplements? How much are you willing to button up your diet so that you can heal for a couple months? There's a couple different kind of key indicators of success. And there's some people where it's a month or two. Like, it's also a spectrum. It's not like sick or healed. It's very much the spectrum, right? Where people start to see some results even in week 1. Even after a couple days, they're like, whoa, I just moved coffee after breakfast instead of having my anxiety juice first thing in the morning. And like, my digestion is different and I'm sleeping different and I'm starting to lose weight. And oh, wait, I've lost 5 pounds in 1 week. And I'm like, yes, this is how it works. This is how it starts. Yeah. So it's like, there's like every week they kind of have these new wins and they start to heal and they start to feel better. So like, what I say is this stuff doesn't often take time. It just takes intention. But I don't, because I work with a lot of type A women who expect results really fast, I also don't want to be like, you're going to be healed in 1 month, because that's not always the case, because it's kind of you're learning these new skills, you're refining, you're adopting new habits. So I would say most people can reverse this stuff within 3 months. In worst cases, 6 months. And in someone who's really struggling and who's really attached to their pain and, kind of keeps going back to some of their old habits, it could be like a year or longer. It totally depends on the person and the desire they have to heal.
Woohoo! Okay, listeners, we got to break this down. Chelsea just dropped a giant gem. But we got to focus on this, okay? Because the same is with life coaching. The same is with personal development. The same is with anything that you want to achieve in life. But we got to get to the brass tacks of what she just said. Our commitment to better will indicate the speed as to which we will experience what we want. And that's huge. So we get to choose our adventure with our intention, with our commitment, and with our consistency. So take heart, have hope. And, this isn't a beat yourself up moment. It's just a clarity moment. Like, hey, if I want things faster, I can follow the protocol. I can be consistent. I can choose to do this. I can say yes, even though it might be scary, even though I don't know, man, these supplements, I don't really like. This is a beautiful thing to encounter. And I'd like to highlight those moments because I think that it's really, really key, because it's the unsexy part of getting better. It's kind of like but I do like having like 5 cups of coffee in the morning. And I love, whatever those things may be that sometimes set us back. So like, case in point, I'll share a personal story really briefly. I go back and forth with the prescription cream that I'm given to take away some of the melasma that I'm starting to experience because of hormone changes. And I go back and forth, man. I go back and forth because I don't like using prescriptions if I don't have to. I don't like when something has a list of side effects that, oh, now you're going to be sensitive to the sun. I'm like, the sun is everywhere and it's my face. I can't wear like a ski mask when I go places. So I get scared. I go back and forth. So, I was recently thinking, I first got prescribed this cream. Now, when I look back, couple years ago, and I just go forth and I go back and I go forth and I go back. And we all have these moments and these emotions. But when we become resolute enough to say no more, and we follow the protocol appropriately, we can see change in no matter what it is, and it can be faster than we imagine. So I like to keep it real with people and even share it. Look, I'm the best life coach, but I sure go through things of my own. Okay. I struggle over here. There's a struggle bus and I occasionally get on it. So So rest assured, I will share with you the times I struggle. And I know I do with certain protocols myself. So I love that you highlighted that because that's key. And you talked about intention and how that can make us experience what we want faster. Thank you for that. That's powerful. I love that. I love those empowering moments. So you mentioned that you work with men sometimes. And a lot of times the hormone conversation is really kind of geared towards women. Can you talk to us a little bit about what men may experience and what may be causing these things for them in terms of like what you've experienced with your clients and what you see?
So for women, it's obviously a little bit more complex, right? We have a 28-day cycle. There's a lot of different factors. We're also childbearing humans, so there's so many different considerations, and we are more sensitive to certain environmental factors. For men, it's not dissimilar. It's just that they're on a different hormone cycle. So they're producing testosterone every 15 minutes. So they don't have this monthly cycle. It's a lot more simple. So men are a little bit more resilient to workplace stress, for example. And I know that's a really controversial thing to say because, I used to be a leader at a corporate company, and I'm the first person to say, like, I smashed work. I was like outperforming men left and right. But I also had to look at my physical condition as a result of that, right? And so I'm a very big proponent of both men and women having the tools to manage hormone imbalances. And so for men, the same thing in women that causes a lot of the hormone imbalances, which is the cortisol, is going to cause things like low testosterone in men. And how I see that show up as is, fatigue, change in muscle composition, loss of hair, irritability, inability to perform. And, for those men, a lot of them think it's just getting older. They're like, oh, this is just what happens in your late 30s, early 40s. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like when I look at lab tests, I could literally double someone's testosterone output if you give me a couple months and if they follow the protocols, right? So I think people are very, very fast to go to something like TRT before looking at the fundamentals. Are they sleeping? Are they eating the right foods? Are they balancing their blood sugar? Are they moving their bodies, or are they sitting under fluorescent lights in a boardroom for 12 hours and then on a plane every week? You know what I mean? Like, are we not looking at the fundamentals here of why they might not be producing testosterone in the first place? Like there's certain points during your sleep cycles where most of the testosterone production takes place. So if you're not nailing a solid, 7 to 9 hours of sleep, like you're not going to have testosterone. And there are studies that show that, I don't want to exactly get something along the lines of, one night of poor sleep, like if you're sleeping 5 hours, if you're a man, can affect your testosterone as much as 10 years of aging. So we just have to look at some of these studies and like go on PubMed and educate ourselves and be like, okay, let's clean up the fundamentals before we start to look at pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, I agree 1,000,000%. And I think that at least from this perspective of, so I have not lived abroad. I've traveled, but I have not lived abroad. And so, when I started to travel, I started to see so much about, what is different when you're American, born and raised, and you haven't left. You just don't know what you don't know, point blank. And I could say that for anybody anywhere in the world. If you've only been in one place, you most likely only have that purview. Now it's a little bit different because we are connected in greater ways with technology and we're able to kind of see beyond, but it still is different than like living and truly engaging and seeing a culture move in front of you, rather than kind of cultivated pictures or portraits of what life may be there. So I think for folks, it just becomes, at least here in America, there are not enough, or there are I haven't seen any, I have not seen any commercials that are talking to us about the fundamentals. I have not seen any commercials or any campaigns that are telling us, hey, eat healthier, look to this, solve your problems with nature. You can solve your problems with nature. And so I think that because it's not ingrained as a, dare I say, normal, but as a normal thing to do. And then you say, well, who do I go to get help if something's wrong with my body? You go to a doctor, and depending on that doctor's perspective, on goes that cycle, right? So I love that you say, look at the fundamentals. Now, for someone that may feel like, because that's another thing too. And we touched a little bit about that, where it can be very overwhelming for folks to even consider thinking, like, they're like, change the way I eat. Oh my gosh, I'm already like overwhelmed, right? Or they might think, start to move my body. I don't have time for that. Or, they imagine the hard workouts is what the picture they get in their mind. So because you are dealing with type A people that I find have a dual, I'd love to hear your perspective on that as well. So I find have a dual where they're very proactive, but they are also very like, I know what I want to do. And so I want to do what I want to do. What would you say to those folks, whether they're type A or whether they are maybe not type A, but still in this headspace of like, I don't know about all of that. How do you work with people like that? What would you say to someone who maybe is, dare I say, resistant or questioning or suspicious of the investment of time and effort toward working on fundamentals? How do you begin that process to coach them into beginning, taking it on?
So my approach is a bit different. And it might be different than some health coaches because I work with people who actually want to change. And that's who I speak to. That's who I work best with. That's how I market myself. And so therefore, people who desire to change and they want the result on the other side, which is a flat stomach, clear skin, sleeping through the night, high energy, ability to get pregnant, super high performance at work. People just want to be skinny. They just want to be skinny. They just want to lose the weight. So those people who genuinely want that result, they come in and, those type A people, sometimes it has to feel like their idea. So there's, different coaching strategies I can do to make it feel like it is their idea. And it's not, someone coming top down. But my coaching style is like, I want to teach you the skills so that you can make the choices. I'm not, my whole thing is if someone comes in and they're like, can I eat this? Or what about this brand? And I'm like, you have the tools. I've told you how to make decisions. I've taught you how to read labels. I've given you a list of the, quote, high vibe foods that are going to give you the result the fastest, but you got to figure that out. Like, it's got to be your idea and you have to really subscribe and attach to this process. It's not something, one of the things that I first do with clients when they come in is I don't work with people who are going to go to a brunch with their friends and go, my health coach told me I can't eat pancakes. I'm like, that's not how this works. It's just not how it works. Here is the serve and limit of the foods that you are having. And you make the choice because there are genuinely going to be times where having the pancakes is totally in alignment with you that day. Like, you are out enjoying a special brunch with friends. You just want the pancakes, like you're salivating thinking about it versus using food to solve an emotional problem. And that's the kind of the skill, right? And that's why I think it's so important that everyone has a health coach if they want these results, because there is truly there are tried and true methods of learning how to do this stuff and learning how to actually implement it and learning how to really flip your mindset so that you know how to think about food in a different way. Because let's be honest, I don't know about you, but I grew up as a ballet dancer before I transitioned into sports. And so body image has always been a big thing for me. And we're told not to eat and we're told we're too big or too much of this and not enough of that. And so we have this crazy dysregulated relationship with food. And, since I was young, I would open the Cosmo magazine and go straight to the health section to see how I could lose weight and what kind of Jello diet or grapefruit diet I could get on. And so unraveling a lot of those beliefs around food and diet culture is one of the first things that we have to do, especially for women. And that's, something that's a little bit more specific to my women's program than my men's program. Because men, they're just like, Chelsea, tell me what to do. I don't care. Just give me a blueprint, I'll follow it, and they lose 30 pounds in 3 months. You know what I mean? For women, it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And we kind of have to unravel some of those beliefs to really be successful long term and not just follow some strict, rigid diet. We have to work on healing the mindset and healing the body at the same time.
I absolutely agree 1000%. It's imperative. It's imperative because yes, as women, there are a lot of things that are coming at us that do influence the way that we feel about ourselves and the way that we perceive other women and what we should be. And it doesn't matter how powerful we are because we are powerful. Like you said, we bring life through from one portal to the next. I mean, we run companies, we run our households, we nurture, we guide, we perform, we transform our bodies and our minds, and the list goes on and on. And still we are human. And still we want to belong. And still we want to know that we're loved and valued. And unfortunately, we are still in a culture where there are a lot of messages coming to us that are constantly telling us that something needs to be fixed or changed or plumped or reduced or smoothed or whatever. And I know for me, growing up, the culture of slim, the culture of like, if you want to lose weight, you just eat less and you work out more. And these things that we've now I think that now that the health industry has changed that, we see that strong is very valuable, building muscle. So we're not going about it the same way, but there are still things, right? And we still suffer from the influence of that. Like, for example, we all know at this point that there's filters in Photoshop, but we still get influenced by the filters in Photoshop. Or is it just me? Tell me, I'm okay. I'm okay if it's just me. I constantly need to work on myself. But I will tell you this. I know that there's filters in Photoshop, and yet there comes a time where I'm like, I have to break out of I'm like, no, wait. No, that's lighting there. No, that's, you know what I mean? Or tell me, Chelsea, tell me, girl, is it just me?
It is definitely not you. We are all aware of it, but it's just part of us. You know what I mean?
So I love that you're helping people to, and because it is key. So some of the differences when I'm helping my clients, I want to get to square one, and I want to say, where are we with even what we're perceiving as the goal and what is influencing that? And then we start to move and work on various fundamentals. I love that in your case, you do lab work with your clients. And I love that in your case, you allow them to say, hey, and that you're working with people that really, really want this change and are moving forward in that direction. I have had clients in the past that are like, my health coach won't let me do that. And it's just like, oh, no, that's not the relationship we're in.
Not the vibe.
That's not it. So I love that you talked about that. I love that you talked about that just because I think that it also can help listeners that are considering getting health coaching to just know a little bit about the successful perspectives that they can take and kind of own as they enter into these relationships, because it does determine their outcome. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I think the people who are not self-sovereign and who have my health coach told me not to, they're just never going to be successful. They're the people who are going to yo-yo and go back and forth and back and forth. The people who take control of their outcomes, who take control of the actual principles they're learning and learn how to apply them, are the ones who do not come sliding back into my DM 6 months later being like, hey, I need to get into another boot camp because I've gained all the weight back. They're the people who are able to see everything on, it's not they're all on the wagon or all off the wagon. It's like, I'm either up or I'm down and I'm nowhere in between. They're the ones who truly master like learning self-sovereignty, learning how to make choices, like not beating themselves up and having self-compassion when things are not perfect, because inevitably things are not perfect, especially for execs who are on a plane or entrepreneurs who are running businesses and who have to work sometimes till midnight. Like there's a spectrum, and it's learning what your fundamentals are every day. And what my whole thing, right, is I'm obsessed with feeling good, because for half of my life, I felt like crap. So when you start to focus on different KPIs, which I don't know if some of your listeners might know that means key performance indicator, if you're in any kind of corporate or business role, the KPI is not a number on a scale, especially for women, because it rises during the back half of your cycle and it drops during the beginning of your cycle. So you could fluctuate. So it's not about the number, but it's about the feeling. And when people start focusing on being obsessed with feeling good, that is when the physical results fall into place.
And that is when all of the efforts are absolutely worth it, because they are seen as a gateway to the goal of feeling good and not as a punishment or a restriction. And greater awareness and greater acceptance is had on every level. It's like, yes, I want to do this. I want to show up because this is actually the portal that I'm going through to get to my promised land of whatever that is. The flat stomach, not having headaches anymore, having my hormones balanced, increased sex drive, I can sleep now, all of these things. And so it's a really exciting dynamic process when that does happen. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is what this is for. And I think when it comes to health and physicality, oftentimes it is a journey because there's levels of awareness to this thing. It's like, number one, this isn't normal. Feeling like this isn't normal. Can I do something about this? Yes, I can. Okay, cool. First portal crossed, and then so on and so on. What am I going to do? Will I follow? So awesome. When it comes to this hormone health, and I love that you've touched on the fact that it can happen for men and women. I love that you've touched on the fact of like, hey, these are some symptoms you may be feeling that may indicate that hormones are out of whack. I love that you are guiding the way and showing people that there is a way to get through this, especially for high level corporate type A folks, that there are a lot of things going on. You touched a little bit about this. What would you say are the most important reasons to take care of this? And because we're always fluctuating, could someone balance their hormones and then unfortunately have another season in life make them come out of whack again? Or with dealing with you, have they now learned this tool and they're able to maintain going forward? How does that look?
So for people who are really committed to the result and who actually want to make meaningful change, the whole point is that they learn the skills so that they can identify when things are getting slightly off track. So the way I think about it is like, you have those kilns in pottery where the plates just, you have like a little bowl on there and it's kind of spinning. And sometimes it comes a little bit off center and you're like, okay, all right, that's not right. So I'm just going to thwack it back into place with the tools I have. And then, when you don't have those tools, it can just, all of a sudden the wheel's spinning and the plate's pointing in 5 different directions and it just looks crazy. So learning these skills and learning to refine this over time, like, this is why my program is 6 months, because people need to go through multiple different seasons and multiple different months to really refine these skill sets. But when you have these skill sets, it's kind of something you have for life. And it's the kind of stuff that prevents disease. It helps you feel good. It helps you look the way you want to. And so that's why I say, I don't coach a challenge, a whole 30-day challenge. I coach a skill set like that lasts you a lifetime, that delivers the result for the rest of your life. So for someone who does show up and do the work, like, they might go through these seasons where they gain a little bit of weight and they're not sleeping as well, but they know exactly how to get back on track. And so they can just jump back on that train whenever they want and reattach to the process and kind of keep coming back to their center.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Please, again, tell us where we can connect with you.
Hop over to my Instagram. It's Healthy with Chels. And that's where I put everything. I'm pumping out content. Like, I'm a content queen these days. I'm giving tips. I want to help more women. So I'm really in that expansion phase. So I'm putting out a lot of different tips and things. I also have my freebies on there so you can kind of see my methodology and really get some of those tips that can deliver some quick wins for you. And that's just at my link in bio. You can find the Chocolate Lover's Guide to Hormonal Weight Loss. And that gives you literally a step-by-step playbook, shows some client journeys that a lot of people can relate to, people with trouble sleeping, transitioning off hormonal birth control, weight gain around the belly, all sorts of those issues and how to address them. And then I have two ways you can work with me. One is, a quarterly boot camp. It's 3 weeks. It's for those people who want those quick wins. They want to get a little taste of what coaching is like. And then a 6-month transformational program for the people who want to become the person. They want to release the weight, keep it off, feel amazing, sleep through the night. And for some women, that looks like a really smooth transition to menopause. For others, it's women in their 20s who are working in corporate who want to balance their hormones so they can look good, call in a partner, feel really comfortable in their bodies, build their energy, and just become a different person.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Friends, definitely, if you're interested in balancing your hormones, you can check out Chelsea and all of the ways that she outlined. Of course, in the show notes, you will have the link to her as well. And if you're interested in health coaching with me, that has to do with really coming to your foundational set of what is good for me. Where do I want to begin my process? Things are going on for me. I want to start to navigate. I want to get clearer about those choices. Then hit me up. Okay, it's bestlifecoaching.online or teemaree.com. Thank you so much for being here. Be sure to subscribe to this show and reach out to both of us because we can't wait to hear from you. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for being with us today. And see you again soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe and visit teemaree.com/free for more goodness.